Hello and welcome to our monthly kids cooking class. Today we're cooking a classic, spaghetti and meatballs, but with a twist. Meatballs will be turkey and made with pesto. Pesto is a sauce that's made from olive oil, lemon juice, and traditionally with pine nuts, but today I'm using one that used pumpkin seeds instead to keep everything nut-free. The key ingredient in pesto is one of my favorite herbs, basil. Basil has a delightful aroma and adds a beautiful depth of flavor to pasta dishes, pizzas, and salads. Pesto gets its name from this, the tool traditionally used to make it. It's called the pestle and mortar. You would take your basil, your pine nuts, your olive oil, and lemon juice, put it in here and bash it all up, leaving this, our nice beautiful pesto sauce that we'll be cooking with today. Let's take a look at some of our other ingredients. Let's get cooking. I'm going to start by building my meatballs. So I've got all my ingredients set out. I'm going to start by peeling and grating this carrot. Now the carrot's going to add a really nice sweetness to the meatballs that'll balance out that kind of tart earthiness of the pesto. It's important to be really careful at this point because these blades on the grater are sharp and it's easy to cut yourself. So make sure you keep your fingers tucked well back. So I got my carrot grated. It's all nice. Add my pesto, breadcrumbs, salt, and some pepper. Lovely. Put on my trusty chef glove, and I'll start mixing it up. I want to make sure it's nice and thoroughly mixed. Don't want clumps of breadcrumbs or carrot anywhere. We want a nice, uniform consistency. It smells incredible already. Basil is so strong. Okay, so we've got this nice uniform consistency that we want. It smells amazing. I'm going to start rolling them out into meatballs. I'm going to take something a little bit like a golf ball size. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as they're all about the same size, that's the most important thing. Just roll them nice. Of course, whenever you're handling raw poultry, you always want to make sure you wash your hands immediately afterwards. If you do have a scale at home, you can weigh them out to make sure they're all the same size, but I normally just go by eyeball. If you notice that one of your meatballs is a little bit bigger or smaller than the rest of them, you can always just take a little pinch off of the one and move it to a different one. Just make them all nice and balanced. That way they'll all cook at the same time. You won't have one that's overcooked or undercooked. Okay, so these are done. I'm just going to set them aside and start cutting up my peppers for my sauce. I'm just going to take my pepper, stand it on its head like that, and very carefully just work my knife around the outside. Take all of these bits off, working nice so that I avoid hitting that membrane and getting seeds all over the floor. Just getting every last red piece off of the pepper. Just nice and easy around the outside, no rush. If you do have any little white bits, you can just use the edge of the knife to scrape them out. Now that I've taken them all off the core, I'm just going to get them into nice long strips. And we're going to keep my fingers tucked back in the bear claw. And once they're in strips, I just turn them sideways, cut across, and there, lovely, nice diced pepper. Alrighty. Okay, all our prep work is done. It's time to start cooking. I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got my pan all ready to go. We're going to sear off the meatballs first before putting them in the oven. That's going to give them that nice crust on the outside. But first thing I want to do is get my pot of water boiling. That's going to take the longest, so I want to get that going right away. So while we're waiting for that to come up to the boil, I'm going to start cooking off the meatballs. I've got my pan on nice and hot because I'm going to give them a good sear on the outside first. That's going to lock in all those nice juices while they cook. You can see it's even starting to smoke right now. So I'm going to get my oil in. That sizzle is what I want to hear. So I'm going to start placing them in one at a time. That sound is very important. That means they're searing nicely. Now when I'm adding multiple things into a pan, I tend to go in an order almost like the face of a clock. I go around the outside. That way when it comes time to flip them, I know which one to flip first and go from there. That way they all go in at around the same time. I'm gonna let them sit for about 2 to 3 minutes on the first side before flipping them. That way I know I've got a nice crust on the bottom. So again, I'm going around in the same order I put them in. That way I know they all got the exact same amount of time on the first side, and they'll get the same amount of time on the second. Okay, they've had another couple minutes in the pan. I'm gonna start taking them out, back onto the sheet, and straight into the oven to finish baking off. Both sides nicely seared. So I'm gonna put them right in the oven. I'm gonna set a timer for about 15 minutes, and then I'll check them to see if they're done. So as you can see, my water's up at a nice rolling boil. It's time to get the pasta in. But first, I want to make sure the water's nicely seasoned. I'm going to add salt, and it's going to look like I'm adding a lot, but that's going to help keep the flavor locked in the pasta. You want the water to almost be as salty as the ocean. Get all my spaghetti noodles. Just get them right plink into the center of the pot. I give them a nice little quarter turn, and they all fall away, except for one. Okay, so my pasta's in. It's gonna take about 10 minutes to cook, and while we're waiting on that, I can build my sauce. Now, I've got my pan that I was searing the meatballs in. It's still got lots of flavor inside, and I'm gonna work that into the sauce. It's still nice and hot. I'm gonna get my peppers in first. Same thing, we want a nice little sizzle as they get into the pan there. A nice pinch of salt. And work them around. I'm gonna cook them just for a few minutes, just until they start getting soft. So you can see all those lovely bits that were on the bottom of the pan when the peppers went in are all soaked up. They've gone right up with the peppers. They've joined them in a nice happy flavor family. This is gonna be an amazing sauce, I can tell already. So the peppers have softened up a little bit. They're still gonna be a little bit crunchy, but they're gonna cook in the rest of the sauce. So I'm gonna get my lovely tomato sauce right into that pan. Turn the heat down a little bit. I really just wanna get the sauce nice and warm. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes. I'm gonna check my meatballs. Oh, those look amazing. Oh, look at them. Now I'm looking for a temperature of about 165 on them. Okay, so we're still just a little bit short. We only need another 5 degrees, so I'm gonna wait another 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. My pasta's cooked. But before I drain it off, I'm just gonna take a little bit of this cooking water. You can see how cloudy it is. That's not like water from the tap. That's all the starch that's come out of the pasta. I'm gonna actually add it into my sauce here. It's gonna act as a glue. That's gonna help the sauce stick to the noodles so much better. All right, it's been another couple minutes. Let's check on our meatballs. Oh, look at that. Oh, these look so good. Okay, perfect. They are at temperature, so I'm gonna take them out. Just let them rest for a minute. Okay, so my pasta is cooked. I've drained it off. I'm just gonna start adding it in with my sauce here. It's important to add the pasta to the sauce. You get a much nicer consistency. You got the nice even coating from the sauce. Just looks so much better. Okay, everything's ready. Let's start plating up. I'm gonna take my pasta, nice and saucy. Oh, look at that, nicely coated, beautiful pasta. I'm just gonna get 1 meatball, 2 meatballs, and because we've got that lovely basil in the pesto, I'm just gonna give a couple little leaves here and there, just to go join their friends. And of course, no pasta dish would be perfect without the beautiful Parmesan cheese. Wow, look at this. I hope you're as excited to try this as I am. A nice leaf of basil, some nice cheese. The spaghetti's perfectly cooked. It's got that perfect amount of chew to it. It's cooked al dente. Look at the fun color there in that pesto meatball. That pesto is so bright, that basil is so fragrant. It's an amazing flavor. And what fun is this, to have green meatballs, to be cooking with turkey. I love spaghetti and meatballs, but this is definitely a nice, fun take on it. I hope you all had as much fun cooking today as I did. Thanks for joining us for our monthly cooking class. I'm Chef Nick with Growing Chefs Ontario, and have a great day.